Alongside Ben Felder, I'm Dave Morris. We're at the Cox Convention Center in downtown Oklahoma City. Festivities continue on a long day for the next governor of Oklahoma, Kevin Stitt, inaugurated, sworn in earlier today. Tonight, black tie affair.
Yeah, this is the big end of the day party. Kevin Stitt took his oath of office around noon today, delivered his inaugural address, is now officially Oklahoma's 28th governor, and tonight is a chance to rub elbows with the political elite and those that could afford a $250 ticket into this event. But yeah, this is kind of the culmination. This is a gathering. There'll be, Stitt is expected to speak to the crowd.
I'll just tell you how far I've come. It was not that long ago, March of 2018. And I just took my daughter to go visit some colleges. She's a senior in high school. So we flew back into the Tulsa airport and we got on the shuttle and they were driving us back to where our car was. And they pulled up next to our car and he started unloading our luggage. He saw my bumper sticker that said Kevin Stitt for governor. And he goes, "Hey, what do you think about that Kevin Stitt guy?" I thought he was joking. I turned around and looked at him and I could tell he had no idea that I was Kevin Stitt. And he said, and I said, "Well, I kind of like the guy. What do you think about him?" And he said, "Well, he's exactly what we need. He's a fresh approach to state government, and I think I'm going to vote for him." And I said, "Well, me too." I said, "Have you ever met him?" He said, "No," and I said, "My name's Kevin Stitt."
And this will kind of put a cap on a big day for Oklahoma.
Toby Keith in the house later tonight to entertain those who are here. But in the meantime, you spoke with some of the current politicians, former politicians, and some of the people who make the things happen behind the scenes.
Yeah, I spoke with former Governor Keating, who asked him about what advice does he have for the new governor, and he said, "Hey, the biggest challenge is that the buck stops with you." Kind of a popular political phrase, but that every issue, every challenge is now your responsibility. You have to deal with. There's no more time to say, "Hey, I got to take some time to study this issue." You kind of have to respond right away.
But he's young enough to be my son. That's what depresses me. But no, I think what Kevin Stitt brings is a successful business career, a young family. How many young families have we had living in the governor's mansion? Very bright, very determined to make Oklahoma a top 10 place. All the agendas that we have to address, most particularly education, he is focused on it, and he has young children in school. So I think the problems Oklahoma faces will be relevant to him, and he'll be in a position to do something about it. I'm very pleased. And he's a Republican, but he doesn't dislike Democrats. He'll work very well with the Democrats and the Republicans.
He also is pretty high on Stitt's possibilities, especially given his business experience. I asked him about the fact that, so many lawmakers, particularly Republicans, say we want to run government like a business. I think what's a little bit unique about Stitt is that he's come directly from that CEO position. There are business owners in the legislature, sure, but few like Stitt in terms of his background and, in building a national company from scratch. I had a chance to talk with Donelle, his chief spokeswoman during the campaign. She'll be the Deputy Secretary of State. My colleague, my editor actually, Chris Castile, he wrote a piece for tomorrow's paper, and the lead of his story is that as of almost noon today, Kevin Stitt became an insider. It's his government now. And I'm curious, how do you, I know you're involved in policy discussions and shaping message. How do you keep Governor Stitt kind of true to that kind of outsider, embodiment that he's brought to the governor's office?
I think when you think of the insider and outsider concept, you really got to look at the way a brain operates. Sure, he's an insider in the sense that now he's a governor, he's been sworn in, he's a public official, but his mind is still very much an outsider. He still thinks just like the Oklahoman next door to him. He hasn't been having his mind trained for this for 20 years. His mind still thinks about, these people are just like my employees. They're like the people I've sat and signed the front and back of their paychecks. When he thinks of state employees, he wants to make sure that we're really valuing them, uplifting them, helping them feel like they can be empowered to do great things in their positions. And then he thinks of the people, just like he thinks of the way that his wife or his church family takes their kids to soccer every day. There's still very much of that.
I wrote about this last month, but for her, as a really sought-after, campaign advisor, political official, as she was invited to join the Stitt campaign, everybody around her said, "Don't do it." First, because they didn't know who he was. But here we are, this person with no name ID, that made his way through a crowded Republican primary that had some pretty big heavy hitters in it, then took on a Democratic challenger in a year where voters were very frustrated and it was expected to be a close race. He ends up winning by 12 points. But this is quite a story. It's always a big story when you have a new governor and how they got here. But quite a story to see Kevin Stitt, a former CEO who didn't even dream of becoming governor a few years ago, is now the most powerful official in the state. And
one gentleman you spoke with who he will be working with, Speaker McCall.
Yeah, I mean, House Speaker Charles McCall. I spoke with Senate Pro Tem Greg Treat earlier today. Everybody is pretty optimistic about their ability to work together. I think that's normal at a time like this. It's kind of the honeymoon period. Stitt has some pretty large reform measures that he'd like to get done. So far, leadership in the House and Senate say they're all on board. Now, when the session begins next month, we know that there's going to be challenges. Anytime you try to make substantial change, even if it's supported by the majority party, it always slows down. That's going to be a really key thing to watch with Governor Stitt. How well does he adapt to the slow pace of state government? Or does he shape government? Does he demand action pretty quick? Does he get his way? I mean, this is an outsider who's now an insider, and things are going to change for him. But yeah, Speaker Charles McCall said that he felt like he had a really good working relationship already with Governor Stitt and was excited to work with him. It's day one. We'll see where it goes from here.
I think it's all about communication. We'll have discussions about things that we think are priorities for the state of Oklahoma. I think each understands in the House, the Senate, and Governor Stitt as well, that it takes all three offices or branches to move the state of Oklahoma forward. I think we're all very interested in doing that and using our time that we have during the legislative session, those 4 months, very effectively to quickly take action and address the issues that the state is a priority for the people of this state.
Prayer service tomorrow, and then the business of government is at hand.
Yeah, we'll see some more hires this year. We'll take a closer look at the executive orders from Fallon's administration. We'll have to see which ones Governor Stitt wants to keep. He has 60 days to sign off on them or they go away. I expect him to announce which ones he's definitely going to keep, maybe a few that he doesn't expect to sign. And then they're going to be getting ready for the session. He's going to be crafting, he's already been working on this, but putting together his executive budget. In just a few weeks, he's going to present his plan for the state. The state budget is looking like it's in better shape than it has been in the last few years. But every state agency right now wants a piece of the pie. That pie is bigger than it's been, but it's not big enough to meet everyone's request. So that'll be a big thing to watch as well. Where does Governor Stitt see putting money? And he's also said that he wants to save some, put some back in the rainy day fund. So, tough decisions ahead for the new governor, but hey, this is what he signed up for.
All right, continuing coverage, of course, every day in the Oklahoman, online at newsok.com. There's the Capital City newsletter that you can subscribe to and get that daily in your email. And then finally, the Political State podcast, wherever you download your podcast. You can certainly find it on NewsOK as well. Alongside photographer Nate Billings from the Oklahoman and Ben Felder, I'm Dave Morris. More coverage ahead on newsok.com.